Hey, I'm Ange.
And I'm Beck.
And we are the Gold Diggers, because we believe there's gold found in everyone.
Everyone is unique, interesting and exciting with a great story to share.
And we aim to find it.
The question is, can we rise to the challenge and strike gold? Stay tuned to find out as we chat to today's mystery guest.
Honey, you're my sugar.
So this is how it works. One of us knows who the mystery guest is and the other one doesn't. And today it's Angie's turn to dig the gold out of our mystery guest, Steve, OZZIDRIVER. Did I say that correctly?
Pretty close.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you.
Now, welcome, Steve. I hope we can pronounce your surname, OZZIDRIVER.
Correct.
Or OZZIDRIVER.
That sounds like a tagline for a social media handle or something. OZZIDRIVER.
Everybody
cool.
calls Steve Ozzy.
Ozzy.
So you can call him Ozzy.
Even my wife.
Ozzy Steve.
Ozzy, yeah.
In England, we'd go Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy.
Yeah. Oi, oi, oi.
Yeah, there we go. Well,
So
welcome. It's so good to have you.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'm just going to give you a couple of little things about Steve. Steve is married, has been for 34 years to Mandy,
Wow.
has 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren.
Beautiful.
Lives here on the sunny coast.
Yep.
And
Oh, you're giving me more. Keep going.
I think that's all I'm going to give you.
I thought I was going to be fed a little bit more then, Beck. I thought you were on a kind day.
What else can I give you? No, that's it. Out
Right.
you go.
Okay. All right. I'll see you in a minute.
Off you go. Okay, so now that Ange is out of the room, we're just going to talk quickly to our audience about your story, Steve. So you are a much loved firefighter here on the sunny coast. And I know this because of your good friend Rob Bennett, and also the interactions we've had with you over the election. You were a great supporter during the election last year. And we got to know you a little bit through Rob Bennett, who came on the show. He had a motorcycle accident, which you can hear on one of our other episodes. But he loves just your friendship and the fact that you developed this mountain bike park, which you actually won an Australia Day award for in 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're actually a very inspiring member of our community who's had great influence in the sport and recreation field and is well known by all. So I think we'll delve into a bit of that story today.
Sure.
And we might get Ange back in and we'll start the ball rolling.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Honey, you're my sugar.
It's good to be back. Right, Steve. Where do we begin?
Sounds like a song.
Okay, if you could describe your life in one sentence, what would it be?
Oh, pressure's on.
Wow. That's not easy. I could say roller coaster, but that sounds just a bit too dramatic, but
Yeah.
quite varied.
Okay.
I'd say. Yeah,
So you've lived a very varied life.
I think so.
Okay, so what are the 2 extremes? Is it from childhood to now?
Yep.
Okay.
One of 4, church family. We, seemed to be a good family. Then a traumatic breakup of a family when I was 10, which I found very hard.
Yeah.
Yep. And then getting into a bit of a party animal type of a vibe.
Yeah. As a youth?
Yep, as
Yeah.
a youth. So at 14, I'd been drunk, got stoned and had sex. So
Yeah.
I lived pretty hard for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so so you grew up in a Christian home, did
Yep.
you? And so when you made
Rebelled.
these life choices at 14,
Yeah.
how did that go with the parents?
Well, I hardly saw my dad for 5 years.
Yeah.
Single mum, what could she do? If she cried, that usually stopped me going out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just partied hard and, I love sport and love being rough and tough.
And you
Raced
got
motocross
siblings?
and yes, So 4 boys, I'm the youngest. So growing up, I learnt to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I played rugby league, rode surf boats, surfed, raced motocross. Just had a lot of fun. But lived life for a party. And before I was about 19, just started sort of wearing off, and there was an emptiness. And been brought up to have faith, but certainly didn't live that way. And I felt this magnet just drawing me. No one preaching to me. And just connected with my Creator, and what a difference! Wow. So
this turning point. So what got you to that turning point of reconnecting with God?
As I say, no one preaching to me. I believe God just drew me like a magnet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was a big change where I sort of had the power then to say no to things I was probably addicted to a little bit.
Yeah.
And started getting involved in a local church and doing youth work, helping some friends that had drug addictions, and then I went on to win a Rotary Youth Leadership Award, which was a week of training with people from all over the world, so it was good.
Yeah.
And helping, stayed doing that for some years until I got married at 23. Started a family and didn't have as much time for that.
And you have 4 kids?
I have 2 girls and I have 4 grandkids.
4 grandkids, that was it? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
and how old are your kids?
My girls are 33 and 31.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 4 grandkids?
4 grandkids, 9, 7, 5 and 2.
So obviously you're setting a very different example to your family. To how the example your family set to you was a good example, and you just
it was a good example, but my father had some pretty severe mental health issues.
Yeah.
And he spent 4 months in a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
Even gave him shock treatment, trying to get him out of that. Didn't help. And Mum left when I was 10. Came home I was ready to go to school. Show and tell, my turn. And packed the car, and we're going on a holiday. So I said to my older brother, well, how long are we going for? He said, probably forever. It's like, what? Just devastated. But anyway, so that's how it was.
So do you think it was those circumstances that caused you to, make some poor choices as a young person?
Look, I can't really put my finger on it. I think all 4 boys rebelled.
Yeah.
All 4 of us, yeah. So...
Okay, and you're all on a good path now, are you? Or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I haven't deviated from that path since I was 19. I've kept my faith and made better decisions, and pretty well since then I've just, I guess, helped other people. That's been my thing.
Okay, so let's talk about that then.
Okay.
Helping other people, what does that look like?
Okay, so obviously when you bring up a young family, it takes up a lot of your time. So within that, we end up riding dirt bikes as a family.
Yeah.
And a church we went to, which was History Maker up here, there was about 20 of us that rode dirt bikes. So we'd go away camping and having fun, kept the family together. So my wife and my 2 daughters and myself rode dirt bikes and went to motocross tracks and had fun. Eventually, a friend of mine from church said, come mountain biking. So I got an old crappy bike, went to Parklands up near Nambour, and it was hard and it was rough, and I loved it. So I bought a better bike, and that started an obsession with mountain biking. So that's been a huge...
We know another person who likes mountain biking.
Is this Clive we're talking about?
Rob Bennett.
Oh, and Rob Bennett.
Rob, and
yes, Rob almost
Clive
killed himself.
You know Clive?
Yeah, Clive doing the big thing overseas.
Yes,
I've
Yes,
ridden
so
with him.
he's been a guest on our podcast. Not sure of the number, but it's probably a couple of months now if you want to listen to that one.
Yeah.
I think he's still overseas riding. So you've gone to those extremes with your mountain bike?
No, I haven't. I've done a few races and things, but mainly recreational. I just love getting outdoors, getting fitter, and it's really exercise that's disguised as fun. So it's a fantastic pastime. So anyway, I went to Canada for a fireman exchange. Actually, I went there for a holiday first, and I rode probably the best mountain bike park in the world.
Wow.
And came back, and a female firefighter on my shift said, you want to split an exchange? You do summer, I'll do winter. I said, where? She said, Whistler. I said, hang on, I'll think about it. Yes. So
I've been to Whistler.
yeah, it's awesome.
Very, very high.
Yep. So
Very, very cold.
6 months through summer.
Yeah.
Joined the mountain bike club. Mountain biked as much as I could in that time.
Wow, that's very mountainous.
Which was awesome. And yeah, I swapped my car. We swapped cars, houses, and jobs for 6 months. So that was an awesome experience. But
I didn't know. I didn't know they did
we
that.
do that. Yeah, as long as it's English speaking and you have the approval, so fair process. But
you've not seen the movie Holiday?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Kate
fire.
Winslet swaps with Cameron Diaz. She's American. And that's kind of cool.
But I didn't know they did it as firefighters. Like you could switch jobs and do
so let's go. So, are you a firefighter?
I am a firefighter.
Okay. So, how did you get into that work?
Okay, so I started as a butcher.
Yeah.
And I
That's a big
went for through a couple of jobs because the businesses were closing down, and Don Aldous knocked on my door, who at the time was the local councillor, became mayor of Caloundra City, and would I work for him as a training manager? So I ended up being a manager with Don and worked for him for 11 years. But just long hours, small rewards. Family time off. I thought I want to do something different. Thought about becoming a teacher, and a friend said, "I want to become a fireman." So I asked her husband.
That's a very different contrast.
Absolutely,
a teacher to a fireman.
I just wanted something that's
outdoors,
more rewarding and better for my family, and just I never, at the beginning especially, never really liked being a butcher, but worked very hard, did a good job, paid off my house, all that was fine, but it wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't rewarded.
I'm interested. You say better for your family. Yeah. I'm wondering how firefighting.
You'll as I tell you about our job, you'll probably realise it's lifestyle.
It must be very taxing on a family.
It can be.
Yeah,
it can be. Yeah. So I've done lots of other things within the fire brigade as well, not just the bare basic go to work and that's it. Yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm going to become a firefighter, and what do I have to do? So I applied to be an auxiliary firefighter at Caloundra, which I got into, and I just sold out. I got the best help I could, and it was a fairly long process, all the different steps you had to go through, and I basically got in the top 10 out of 5,500. So
wow, that's good.
Got some really good help, did a lot of work, and unfortunately at that time, my mother was going in she was 59, was going in for a very small day surgery, and she came home 6 months later with no legs and no fingers through medical malpractice. So that was really hard because that's the time I was applying. I actually got given a job. Here's a job at a starting date, and I had to defer because I was not only visiting her nearly every day, but taking my stepfather to see her. So anyway, I had to defer, and I eventually got a job in Brisbane. 3 years down there, and opportunity came to transfer to the North Coast. Yeah. And once again, I topped the list. So I just, worked very hard again on application and interview, and got to Caloundra.
Very good at your job, by the sounds.
So, well, I've realised over time that if I really put if I really put the effort in, I can achieve a lot more than I thought I could. So
how do you rise above the rest in firefighting? Because a lot of it's physical work, is it? Or is there...
strategic?
Like, is it a strategic job?
It's a physical, it's a medical, psychological now. It wasn't back then. Yeah. So it's very competitive, very hard to get in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was very, very fortunate to get up to Caloundra, and I worked there for 9 years. So working in the community that you live in, doing fire education with your own children, going to the high school and doing a road awareness accident prevention program with your year 12s that and it's pretty special. Yeah. Because in Brisbane, I had 47 moves in 3 years, so you were everywhere.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
So I suppose every year you've been involved in when there's bushfires ripping through the...
Yeah, like you usually have a choice if you want to do a deployment. So about 20 years ago, I became a technical rescue specialist, so therefore floods and cyclones, so you get sent to Cairns or out at St George or wherever. Some go overseas. Some of our guys went to New Zealand and that sort of thing.
Yeah, wow.
So I did extra things, and including peer support officer, which is like you learn some counselling skills and help people with problems in the job, your colleagues, as well as helping with debriefing and diffusings after critical incidents. Like
It covers a wide range, doesn't
those
it?
sort of things you don't have to do, but
Yeah.
I just did everything I could and things I wanted to. So I went to Childers after 15 people lost their lives in the backpackers the next day to work with the firefighters, trying to work through that trauma.
That was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah. 14 years helping children who light fires. They do programs in their houses with
so
the families.
you must have really seen some quite horrific sights in your time. Like, because are you in a response team for accidents as well?
So
motor
I'd say a
vehicle
biggest
accidents?
part of our job are road accidents.
Yeah.
I'm at Maroochydore. We go to a fair few alarms and fires, but road accidents is probably the biggest thing. So, yeah.
And when they have to call a fire to a road accident, it's usually pretty bad, isn't it?
Well, we go just because there's a bit of oil on the road or nose to tails, but obviously when people are trapped and multiple fatalities and it can be traumatic. I've always felt that even in death you can add something positive. And there's been a few times where I've been very affected because I've known the people. But
that would be
But generally, I cope well with it. Time does heal because you'll be affected, and you feel better as time goes on.
So how did you learn to have a strong resolve like that? Is it something you just had automatically, or you've become accustomed to it as you've progressed through your
I think
job?
it's a really hard question to answer because you have some people who you would think are stoic and strong, and they get post-traumatic stress disorder themselves. And even at some jobs, they're not coping with this. So you might say to them, hey, just stand over there. You don't need to see this, or so we can help each other that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's obviously a very high-risk job that you do. And how do your family cope with that?
I guess there'd be times when they might be worried about what you're going to, but I think in general it's a job, and when you describe what's happened at jobs and they see that we look at home, Mandy calls me Safety Steve. So you learn to do things safer at home with the grandkids. Lucy says, but Dad, that's never happened. I'm like, but it could, right? So I learned to do things a bit safer than probably when I wasn't a firefighter.
Okay, so what's the number one thing that's most common that people do wrong around the home? That is a fire risk.
A fire risk at home? Well, leaving cooking unattended. Yeah. And then putting water on a fat fire, now the fire's as big as the whole room, and they've burnt themselves. The curtains are on fire, or they try and take the pot outside when it's still burning, and they've burnt themselves. So
what do you do with fat if it's on fire? What would you do?
Well, leave it there, turn the knob off, and use a moist tea towel or best fire blanket.
Smother it.
Smother it. So you can have a dry chem extinguisher, but often if you can get to that knob and turn the heat off, it will go down. It'll go off.
On it.
Because it would feel like a natural thing to do, wouldn't it?
People panic, and that's why we do fire education with year ones. So that if something happens, they've thought about it beforehand. It's the same as anything, planning before an emergency.
Prevention is better.
Look, we've just moved into more rural property, and I know we're coming into bushfire season, and you have to have a bushfire plan. Now, I didn't really necessarily pay much attention to it because I was in suburbia before. No trees around. Now I'm surrounded by trees. And I'm suddenly these are thoughts that I've had. It's like, are we more at risk of bushfire? What are the types of things
if you live in the bush, generally you are.
Yeah. So what are the things we need to do around the home? I appreciate you clear your gutter rings, all that sort of stuff.
The clear, if the tree height, if a tree could fall and it's 20 metres high, you hope for that then that's going to be over 20 metres from your house.
Yeah, true.
Having an escape and knowing that you can get out, like if your driveway is really treed and that's on fire, that's your way out. Yeah. And it's also the way a fire appliance can get in and actually put your house out. Yeah. There is times when we will go undefendable. We can't drive up that road. We can't do that job. So then you've got to decide, do I stay and protect that house? Yeah. Am I comfortable that I could do that? Yeah. Or do I leave early?
I don't even know. How do you protect a house? Just spraying it with water?
You can put tennis balls in your gutters and fill them up. Fill your gutters up with water. You can spray your house. You can have plants that are more fire resistant. You can have aluminium wire instead of plastic wire on your screen doors. You can have, so there's nothing underneath your house that it's usually embers that'll catch that house on fire.
Yeah.
So do you go into the education of this then? You said for
like even urban firefighters, which I am,
Yeah.
we have some, small education programs or leaflets that we do dropping, but not as much as the rural brigades. Yeah, they are better at it, I believe. Yeah.
So have you ever found moments where in your job your faith has come into play?
Yep. For sure.
Yeah, and how would that, is that for you personally?
I guess my faith helps me help others.
Yeah. And I guess it must help you to be able to cope with some of the scenes that you would see as well. And give you a realisation that, we're not here permanently, are we?
No, we're very fickle, and you see people's lives, snuffed out very quickly without a thought, a twinkling of an eye. I lost both my sister-in-laws at 50 and 54. They both, one of them had faith, and the other one ended up having faith just before she passed. But they had time, right? They had time to think about those big questions.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Sometimes you don't.
No.
Yeah.
So I see it all the time.
Yeah.
People
right.
that just, they're gone.
Very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I know when I had a car accident and it was so sudden, it really woke me up and just went, wow, it can just end like that.
Yep.
And ever since then, it's like make the most of every day. But if I hadn't have, some people don't survive and it's just that sudden, that's it. So it does make you think about the bigger things, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I guess, if you're confronted with it quite regularly, we had a doctor on a podcast and he was an oncology doctor and he's, surrounded by death every day. And so he says it's not about how we die, it's about how we live, and kind of makes his message is let's live well while we know we've got breath in our lungs,
Yeah.
And do you live with that sense as well, that you've got to make the most of it every day?
I think it makes you appreciate life and how short or fickle it can be. So yes.
So what is one of the most challenging things you think you've faced in life?
Challenging. Okay, so there's a bunch of different things when you think of, family breakup, mothers, medical trauma, and then having to live with that. Working on your marriage, I think, is
it's important.
something that all of us probably go through. Some mental health issues for the first time probably in recent years. That's been tough.
Yeah.
For someone like me, I always want to help others and feel I'm very resilient. But when you get to those points where you actually have suicidal thoughts, you go, this is very strange. This is not me. This is not normal.
Was that brought on through your job or through events?
No, probably COVID. So I had a mate that he was my wingman, really, building the Sugar Bag mountain bike trails.
Yes.
He died at 53. He was my best friend. So that wasn't, probably that would have contributed to it. So it wasn't good. But really COVID. So I was about to get, I think, mandated as a firefighter. I love my job. I'm a critical thinker. I was doing my own research. Things weren't adding up. So I had people around me that I guess I felt like a second-class citizen, really, when I couldn't go to a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking I've not, for 3 decades or more, I haven't put drugs in my body, haven't got drunk, I've kept fit, and I don't have a choice to what I put in my body. So that with not being, I guess, supported by everyone around and you, people even that you that are family, and the thought of losing my job. Those two together.
It was a very difficult time, wasn't it, for a lot of people? Just with the mandates and things, a lot of people's jobs were really on the line.
We were very lucky.
Yeah,
we were about the only state as firefighters. There's still firefighters now. 17 months later, cannot go to the fire station, cannot work their jobs.
Is that in other states?
Yeah, New South Wales and Victoria. Wow. So there's been suicides, people losing their marriages, their houses. If you're unvaccinated volunteer, you can go to the station and respond.
You can.
But if you're permanent and you're unvaccinated, you can't.
There was just no
Work that
sense
out.
in a lot of the rules, wasn't there?
Yeah.
No.
Like
So
it didn't make a lot of sense.
Look, I realise
Yeah.
it's it's an issue that is divisive. It can be.
But your experience of it is this.
That was my experience.
Yeah.
So can we just revisit the time where you said it was a very dark time for you? It was during COVID, where you had suicidal thoughts, and you said it was a surprise for you. Can you just explain that time for us a little bit more?
Yep. So empty house, sitting on the step, and just feeling of I could probably just better off taking your own life. And afterwards, that just felt like that's so bizarre, so unlike me. I'm the one that helps everyone,
Yeah.
and I'm very resilient. And then to have those thoughts, or that time, it sort of went away, but it came back again. I thought, I better see someone. I actually tried to get onto my own doctor, and I couldn't, so I got onto another doctor. I knew he was a Christian guy, and he said, "Take the jab." That's what he said to me, which I didn't think really helped me at the time. Then I had a second episode of that where I thought, how would I do it? I got dark, and how would I take my life? So I sort of, I guess, a step further. And so eventually I rang through the fire brigade. There's psychologists. We can get 4 or more sessions. So did telehealth, because I didn't think sitting there with a mask on, not being able to even see someone's face and trying to talk was that helpful to me. So I did telehealth, and so I then talked to my doctor, and between the two I said, look, I've got plenty of sick leave up. What do you think I have 2 weeks off? They said, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I said to Mandy, let's hook up the caravan, and we went to the flooded area of northern New South Wales and volunteered.
Oh, wow. Giving to
Wow.
people again. Wow.
And so was your wife aware of where you were at?
Maybe. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so her response was, okay, you need a change of direction, change of scenery.
I just think she was supportive of that, of making a holiday of my time off, and she was fine with volunteering. So we went to Coracai and Lismore and Woodburn, and I think it was very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Yeah, told people that for years. If you're out of work or if you're down, go and help someone.
Absolutely.
And
Love
you'll be
that.
surprised. Yeah.
Absolutely. That is just such a key there.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes we're so focused on what's not working for us that we can become so down about it. But actually the way out of that is go and help somebody else.
Yeah.
It does so much
Yeah.
for our mental health and our physical health as well. I was actually down in Lismore just this weekend and working with some families there. I went to help Convoy of Hope, which is an organisation that was doing 100 homes in 10 days. And, we're 15 months on from the flood crisis.
I'm sure there's still lots to do.
Still so many people without their homes.
Yeah.
Just heard some horrendous stories, really, of insurance companies not paying out and coming up with ridiculous reasons why they wouldn't pay out. And meanwhile, these people are completely stranded, and homeless. And I think I found it just, I was only helping a little bit at the weekend, but that sense of coming together to help a community that you're not even from does a great deal for you to be able to give back to other people. And so I think that's a really great answer to our own mental health.
Yeah. So it was definitely a help.
Yeah.
I did go through another episode where I got even a bit darker, where I thought, where am I going to tie the rope? So I didn't even tell the psychologist that.
Yeah.
Right.
And did your family pick up on any of that?
Oh, I talked to my
depths
dad talked to my kids and about it. I don't know if they picked up, but I was open with them about it. So, but I think, as I said, when we didn't get mandated, so I knew I wasn't going to lose my job, and pressing into my personal faith and drawing strength and peace from that, things got better. And I think today...
Did you become aware of triggers as well? What would trigger those thoughts?
Possibly not getting support.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a challenging time.
Yeah. So
vaccinated or unvaccinated, either way, like it was.
I
really
always
hard.
like thinking of our experiences helping us have more empathy.
Yes.
And if we've been through it, we can relate to people.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I've lived wild without God. I've lived a life of faith, and I can relate to people.
Yeah.
I've felt down and depressed, not much in my life, but this, that time was something I can relate to people. I've always helped people with anxiety and depression and stuff, but never really felt it like that. So.
And now that you can help those who have been through
Absolutely.
that.
And what would your advice be to somebody that might be in that position?
There's lots of things. Less alcohol. Okay. Be healthy. Get outside. Water is great, like beach and rivers, and exercise.
Yes.
Creates endorphins and helps us to get over those things. Have good friends. Hang around positive people.
And even the timing of so that COVID mandating experience was kind of around 2020, and then 2021 there was still some of that left over, but the timing of you building the park in 2021, was that like coming out of that?
Well, I'd been building that park for already 9 years or something.
Yeah, right.
So it was just an obsession, really.
Yeah, right.
that I just kept going like a train, regardless
wow.
of what was happening. And actually, when my mate died, I went and did some trail work and really hard physical stuff. And I found that also very therapeutic.
Yeah.
So just a quick snippet about that friend who passed away. When he found me in the trails one day, he came and talked to me. His mental health was that bad, and his anxiety was that bad, he couldn't ride a bike. He'd had 20 years of mountain biking. He was 1 year younger than me. And then he found me a second time, and he'd started riding a bike. He said, "Steve, you and these trails have saved my life."
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So he built me a sign, and it's still up there today.
Yeah.
And the first trail I built was called Sweet Sugar, and he built me this timber sign that says, "Sweet Sugar, the gift."
Oh, beautiful. You're making me want to go now.
Making me want to cry.
I want to get on my mountain bike.
Anyone who wants to ride, go with someone who can ride and who's going to be safe with them, and maybe give them some tips and not take them on too hard of things. And and I love doing that. And that friend Matt, he would give everyone that he'd love to show off the trails, what we'd done. Take people on I gave him the GT, which was the Grand Tour.
Yeah, nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well,
so how did you pull yourself out of that?
Well, 400 of us in the QFS got together and formed a pro-choice group, both vaccinated and unvaccinated. But we said, we don't want this as a mandate. So we wrote to politicians, to the commissioner, and I think that helped doing something, and we didn't get mandated. So that was one good thing. That's and good. Yes, I leaned on my faith.
Yes.
I've devoured the Bible in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Reading about promises of God, peace, prophecy. My faith has given me peace, given me strength, become more resilient for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love how you talk about, you were saying before how you love to give back to the people, and you touched on the bike park. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So coming back from Whistler,
yes, after
getting involved in the club in Whistler over there, I grabbed a rake. This is 11 years ago, and I lived near Sugarbag Road, and there was a parcel of land about 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre. I'd played in there since I was 12, rode my bike in there, then my motorbike, took my kids there, then we took motorbikes there ourselves, and then so I just started making trails, and I'd come to a log and thought, well, I'll just build a bridge and build a skinny thing and build, some timber stuff, just like in Canada that I'd seen. Yeah. So a few riders found me and said they'd help. I would flag the next section, hide the tools, and we'd go again. So eventually built about 8 kilometres of trails and about 40 timber features.
Wow. We
went to the council with a petition, 650 people on it, and said, how about you take this land off the state, set aside for mountain biking? Tim Dwyer was the deputy mayor at the time. He was very supportive, and as the council has been ever since, and said, great idea, let's do it. So we formed a club. When I was in Whistler, it was called Walker, Whistler Off-Road Cycling Association. I thought, if we did a club in Caloundra, that'd be Corker. How cool would that be? So we formed Corker. Caloundra Off-Road Cycling Association. So,
very fitting name.
Yeah, so
Corker
from
over
about
time.
exactly. So from about 5 or 6 of us and $50 in the bank, we now have probably over 250 members.
Wow.
3,500 on our Facebook group. 15 kilometres of trails.
Yep.
A coffee shop.
Wow.
A bitumen
Called
pump
Corkers.
track. All sugar bag mountain bike trails.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
A toilet block with a hot shower.
Wow.
Barbecues. A bitumen pump track. A lighting plant. A bitumen car park for 52 cars, 53 cars.
Wow.
amazing.
Skills areas. So it's probably about a $3 million build now
And it all
Yeah.
began
Yeah.
with a rake.
with a rake.
One man and a
Yeah,
rake.
I won't say illegally. I'll say unsanctioned.
You were helping the environment.
So, I mean, we've run how to mountain bike for women, 50 women over a 6-week period. We've started a 5 or 7 years ago a kids program, mountain bike Corker Kids. We facilitate rides every week. At the moment, it's twice a week, and then for cruises and just for anyone. It's an awesome
So it's
recreational.
organised,
Yeah,
like
all
organised
organised.
rides.
Yeah, we've trained
Yeah.
about 30 instructors, coaches, which I am one of, and so I enjoy passing on the skills, because if you just take someone riding and they don't know how to ride, they could come off pretty bad and never go back. Happened to
Yeah.
my wife.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
I took her mountain biking. She came off. Yeah,
It's
never
not-
went
never-
back to proper
Mm.
mountain biking. We'll go riding together on forest roads,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but nothing technical.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so you got to be careful. We
And you're
Yeah.
still riding?
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just about every week.
Now
yeah.
you won a special award for that, didn't you?
Yeah, 2021. I won the Sunshine Coast Australia Day Award for Sport and Recreation.
How cool is that?
Very good. So,
Sorry, the Sunshine Coast.
Australia Day
Day.
Award for
Right.
sport and recreation. So there's a lot of different categories,
Yeah.
and sport and recreation had a lot of applicants, and some of them are like Olympians and taking teams to the Olympics, or doing a lot of really good stuff. So anyway, someone nominated. It was not something that you do for yourself.
Yeah.
And they weren't even in our mountain bike club. There was someone from work. I guess they saw how much time I put into it and my passion
Yeah.
over many years. And
That's
I was obviously assessed, and I got the award. I feel it's a community award from lots of people
Yeah.
with passion and put in hard work, and I just happen to be
Yeah.
the figurehead and steering it all. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So one thing I love about this country is that we are really pro sort of those recreation areas. I love the fact we've got public barbecues by
Yeah.
the ocean. And so we really
Yeah.
do
It's
support
great.
communities
Yeah.
coming together, whether it's through sports or,
yeah,
just entertainment of some sort. And I
socialising,
love that.
gatherings.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
yeah,
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the
Sport.
wonderful thing about
There's
Australia.
so many beautiful areas to do that in, beside beaches and mountain parks, and
Yeah.
it's just lovely. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, to me, Steve, there's a lot of gold in you, and the gold that I see in you is that you really are a rescuer. Not just a rescuer of people through the fire industry, but even in the presentation of your faith, and you give your life for the empowerment and betterment of other people. And you've dedicated your life to that, really. And there's a lot of depth in you. A lot of self-awareness as well. Like, I love you talking about that journey of coming through COVID and the things that you've put in place to really help you journey out of that season. And it's important, as you said, you all came together and you worked towards something, whether it was to try and change legislation or something. There's such an important aspect of community coming together, and you're somebody that builds community, and what you've done with the park and that you've enabled a community to come together, and I think that's just such gold in you. And so thank you so much for sharing your story and being so vulnerable with it as well. That's the beautiful thing about stories. When we're vulnerable and we share, we never know who it's actually going to impact. So yeah,
You're very welcome.
Very encouraging, and I love that you've brought the community together. Thanks for being a standout.
Yeah. And congratulations on the award.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Ba-dum-bum.
Wasn't it great to have Steve on the show today?
Yeah, I love people's lives. Looking at him, I would never have gone down firefighter.
Yeah.
He just doesn't look your typical firefighter. But, clearly he's had a really long and good career in that. And hasn't he seen some horrendous things?
Oh, I know. It'd be such like one of those jobs like paramedics and just the things that you'd come across.
He mentioned that he's been to some accidents and it's people that you know. Oh. Could you imagine turning up at a scene like that and you realise that you know the person? It just would be horrendous. Which leads me to the point that, like, the way he talked about his mental health, it was such a brave thing to do, to go there. But it's so important because in COVID, so many people reach that point because of mandates or losing their jobs or...
There's hopelessness. I love his honesty about it.
Yeah.
I was so grateful to hear him just be so honest and candid because that really helps others connect, doesn't it?
Yeah. But there was certain things that he kind of touched on. That he said that he kind of laid hints to people without necessarily being specific. But, he talked to his kids about it, probably, without going to great depths about it. But I think it's something that we need to be aware of is to look out for signs in people when they're struggling because it's not always the most obvious thing. No. And so it's being present, being aware, being conscious of people, particularly if they're going through a difficult time, asking those questions. Are you okay? Do you need help? Yeah. And I loved how self-aware he was to know that actually these thoughts are not normal thoughts.
That's right.
These are not usually me, but I'm taking them to another level, so I need to reach out and I need to talk to somebody and talk to psychologists. He talked to his family,
and to get to the point where you're looking for the rope, like that's pretty bad at that point. But then for him to say I need some time out and then go on a trip and help others, I mean, what a great remedy is that.
We hear that so often, though, time and time again. Really, the value to us in helping other people, in sowing and serving and giving into a community of people where we've got no gain for ourselves, actually does an incredible amount for our mental and physical health. And it's something that we should all be actively pursuing. And I think we're going to live happier and healthier lives as a result of it.
And we do have to look after each other, don't we? All of us as a community, as a nation.
Definitely look after and look out for. So that's it for today's podcast. You'll find us on all the major podcast platforms. The podcasts come out every Wednesday. We'd love to hear from you on our socials, the Gold Diggers Podcast. Tell us about your story so we can find the gold in you.
Easy as pie, lemon, apple or cherry. Loving you is so very sweet, sweet, sweet. How can it be such a piece of cake? And your smile is the icing. Loving you is a poem. Honey, you're my sugar.